Welcome, everyone, and very glad that you could join us today. My name is Paula Newcomb, and I'm the Northeast Regional Coordinator of the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I will be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, Small Adjustments for Big Change. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll answer those at the end of the webinar. Today's presenter is Brenda Hornsby Heindl. I think I didn't ask you how you pronounce your last name. Sorry. She's the Director Librarian of the Liberty Public Library in Liberty, North Carolina. So welcome, Brenda. After this webinar has been transcribed, it will be available on the Indiana State Library's archived webinars page. If you're watching an archived recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video's description in YouTube. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to the Indiana State Library's e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word, and check our continuing education website for other professional development opportunities. So let's get started. And again, as a reminder in the chat, if you want to change that from host to panelist to everyone so that everybody can see your question if you have a question. So thank you so much for being with us today, Brenda. And I'm now going to hand the presentation over to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's a really great opportunity. I'll talk a little bit about my background and what we're doing. And I really just appreciate the invite to share what our small library here in North Carolina has been doing to try and make a difference here in our community. And especially for rural libraries, I think it's always assuring to see you don't have to spend lots and lots of money to be able to make some changes that can make big differences for people in the community. So we'll go through slides, and again, I'll take questions at the end. So if you haven't had a chance to read James Clear, and I'll admit that I was sort of late to the stampede of reading Atomic Habits. I also listened to it as an audiobook, which I really appreciated, but something that really stuck with me was not only learning about how you can grow personally with changing habits, but it also made me think about how an organization can use the same concept of taking small consistent improvements. And by doing those things and having your staff align toward the same goals and making small changes within your organization can really make significant progress with change in your community. So I highly recommend reading Atomic Habits, especially if you're a library leader, and thinking how to apply those principles to your organization as well as personally. So a little bit about myself. I am what I consider an accidental librarian. My background is in museums and history. I do not have a library degree. I came to the Liberty Public Library first in 2011 and 2012, temporarily, and then left and went into the museum field a little deeper. And then in 2018, I landed back here in North Carolina again and came back to the library as a program coordinator. In the throes of 2020, this was fall of 2020, I had just had a child in January. My then director called me and she said, I'm being asked to take over 2 other branches. I will not leave unless you take this position. And I was like, what? I don't know. I had never been a manager. I deeply love the community I'm in, though. And I decided to do it. I decided to make that leap. And I can't tell you enough how surprised I have been and how much I love what I do. If you had told me when I graduated from grad school in museums, these many years ago, that I would be doing this today, I would have been surprised. But I can't think of anything else to be doing and making a difference in the way that I can with the staff and the library that we have. So we are located in North Carolina, kind of right in the middle of the state. And you might have heard of us because of our new Toyota plant that is opening 5 miles away from us. This is the nation's first Toyota battery plant that is being, it's finished. They're operating now. 2 of the 4 buildings are online. So we're starting to see the influx of people from that. And that's a whole other conversation But small rural community, we're about 2,700 people locally. And then our service population, which we consider to be a 5-mile radius, is over 10,000. So we are considered rural because we're about 20 miles from some of the larger cities like Greensboro. Our main county seat in our county is about 25 miles away. So we're far enough away from places to go and have more resources. We have very few social service resources here. And because of that, here in our library system, and we call them community navigators. So we have been able to put in place ways to community, but we also really lack a lot for still helping our community. I had the opportunity to be a part of a rural library fellowship in 2021 and through 2023. This was through the Partners for Rural Education then, who were a part of Berea College in Kentucky. I went to Berea College in Kentucky as an undergrad, and so really felt an affinity toward the school and was familiar with Partners for Education. They are now the Partners for Rural Impact. They have broken from Berea College as a nonprofit that now can focus nationally on rural communities. But the fellowship then was created in order to work with 22 rural libraries from across the United States to come together and basically help one another create toolkits for other rural libraries and help us understand how to better serve our community. And for me, not having a library background as strongly, gave me the chance to learn from other libraries and have professional development. So this is just a map showing the rural libraries that we started out with in 2021. Over several years, we ended up losing a few people to job changes, moving, different choices for life changes too. And I will say that, especially with 2 of the libraries here, I have continued to have professional and personal relationships with them. So it was also a really great chance to bond with people who are having the same mission. If you aren't familiar with the Association for Rural and Small Libraries, I really, really appreciate that organization as well, not only for the advocacy for libraries, but also the conferences and the opportunities to have, yes, ARSL is great, and the opportunities to have connections with other people who are doing similar things, that you're not alone. And I think I'll talk a little bit about how the Rural Library Fellowship moved into other things. But I think it's important to remember that even as a rural library, maybe literally out in the middle of nowhere, and I grew up in Southern Ohio, so I know what Indiana looks like too. So there may not be a lot for a long distance. But I think it's important to remember that you can reach out and you can make connections, and those connections can really make a big difference. So out of that fellowship, we created what we called this anchor framework, and really talking about how it really is kind of like a beehive, a structure for how to work into your community and focus on, we were focusing then on 3rd grade reading, the importance of 3rd grade reading, but how you can support in people from cradle to career. And that is really what Partners for Rural Impact have moved toward, really focusing on the different ways that you can uplift rural communities, specifically for cradle to career success. And so each of us with the fellowship focused on different aspects of our own community for 3rd grade reading. And one of the strongest points of that was to really focus on data. And data, to me, when I started the fellowship, I was like, I know about how to do research on historical data and archives and all these different things, but really learning how to do place-based data was really interesting and has continued to be a part of my advocacy for what we're doing and why we need more support in order to continue the work that we're doing. But also, as I mentioned, collaboration, reaching out and touching base with other people to know how they can help you and how they can be a part of what you're doing, and you can learn from other libraries too. So I mentioned that the Partners for Rural Education then moved into Partners for Rural Impact. And that part of that, through the Library Fellowship, we now have the Rural Library Network. This is still kind of a young network, but I have continued working with them. They have an annual rural summit, Rural Library Summit, and this is save the date for this December. And we're really excited to have Michael Threets as our main keynote speaker. And it's a half day, so it's not a big chunk out of your time, but it gives you the chance to see not only what funders might be out there for different projects, but what other libraries are doing and how they are changing their community through, again, small things, making big differences, not only with staff, but also with your community. So I highly recommend staying in touch with the Rural Library Network. We're working right now to create an online database, and this database will become a platform for resources for rural libraries that will not only give rural libraries the chance to connect with one another, but also to have access to training videos and a kind of a platform to land and have resources nationally. I just got back from a conference that the Partners for Rural Impact hosted in Anchorage, Alaska, which was great. I had the chance to get a scholarship not only through our community here, but I went all the way to Anchorage, Alaska, and one of the presentations was learning about this organization who makes a database spreadsheet of all the known federal and national grants related to rural communities. And I was like, I had no idea this place existed. This was great. It was a wonderful presentation. And I was like, did I have to go to Alaska to learn that? So stay tuned especially if you're working with rural libraries, because that really emphasized to me what the Rural Library Network will be doing with this platform is then taking resources like that spreadsheet and sharing it with more rural libraries so that we really can be on the same page and working toward similar goals in our communities. Another resource that I highly recommend that is, I think, truly still a quiet resource. And this was another grant that I had a chance to participate in. They early on, after they had done the first wave of training and creation of their toolkit, this Rural Libraries and Social Wellbeing basically uses the community for how you can have the community help you improve what you're doing. And while we were doing training, it was great to be able to watch the videos and reflect on how we could work with our community in order to just do small things like visually changing what our libraries look like. So through Rural Libraries and Social Wellbeing, one of the concepts is kind of approachability. What does your library look like, and what signal are you giving to your library for the building? So this is what my building looked like back in 2021. Very shaggy out front. A very plain building, was built in 1966. Plain brown building, brown roof, lots of brown. And from the road, we're not right up on the road, so it's a little distance from the road. From the road, it's just a building that you would drive past. There was not really great signage. There was not really anything saying, hey, come see us. We have resources for you. And it might be kind of a cool place. So one of the things was pull up in front of your library and sit right in front of, as close as you can to your main entrance and just look at your building. Is it accessible? Is someone who might have a walker or a stroller, can they get into your building easily? And do you see navigable pathways to get there? Can you see that this place is welcoming, that you are welcome to come into the building? Is it inviting? And when I pulled up in front of the library for this building, what it looked like then, I didn't feel that way. And when I had worked here in 2011 and 12, I also watched. You can see our main door there in this picture is just to the right of the crepe myrtle trees, and it has 3 arches. Well, those arches were just enough distance that a mobilized device could not get through. Our couriers could not really get through them with the book carts, and the door was super heavy, and it was just it was really hard to access that and really get into our building. So even strollers had a hard time getting in. So yes, our story time population was not huge. Our foot traffic was not great, and I think largely because it really truly wasn't that accessible. So upper picture is still the crepe myrtles. But what we ended up doing, because we did shut down during 2020 into 2021 a little bit, but we had some local funding in order to create an outdoor space. So we took a green space at the bottom of the stairs and created a porch. We added some picnic tables so we could have people have a space to access our free Wi-Fi. And we started to transition to having a pollinator garden. So I tore out all of the grass and all of the stuff that was there and worked with our local gardening community to create this space with primarily perennial native plants. My approach to gardening, we were talking about gardening earlier before the seminar started. My approach, especially for this, is I have to water it very little, and it's a perennial, so it comes back great. If it doesn't, well, okay, that's all right. So as much as I love gardening, it's not something intense to me because I don't have the time to manage it. And we weed it maybe about twice a year. In the summertime, it truly flourishes and is really beautiful to see. But we also then, through that Rural Libraries and Social Wellbeing grant, we worked with our community and doing community art. So we had several different pop-ups through the community. We had conversations about what people would want to come into our community and spend more time with us if we were doing activities we could do. And so we had them make these little canvases that then we could collaborate and make a larger poster and banner with. And now we have hanging, those banners are hanging outside of our library, and it adds a little pop of color. And it really does, it is eye-catching even from the road. So especially now that we have trees down and different things, it's more visible and really changed the front of our library, that it made it a little more vibrant. This is another community project that we did over the years, where we did bottle cap murals. I will say, I don't know that I will ever do another bottle cap mural because collecting the bottle caps was a little insane. But the result was really rewarding. So these are on very large panels. If I had to estimate, it's probably like 3 feet by 4 foot panels each for each letter. And so we designed them. When we would go out and do community projects, we would take the panels with us, and kids would then help us make the bottle cap design. And it turned out really well. It was fun to watch the kids create that work. And through that, got a donation from a local high school group and alumni group, and they helped us to give seed money for printing tote bags. So now we have a fundraiser through the library with our bottle cap mural having that design on the bags, which is really fun. So I'll talk a little bit about some things we've done in the library that are no cost, and just ways to kind of revisit not only the outside of your library, but also to revisit the inside of your library. And our library space is about 3,200 square feet. And so we're not a huge library. We, in 2014, were assessed through county's libraries that we were about 4,000 square feet short then for what our service population was. And so now we're quite a bit short of our service population. And I'll talk a little bit at the end about how we're moving forward with. So we have very small space to work with, but we've really tried to hone in on how do you create that living room aspect? How do you create this third space for community members, and making your collection space more accessible, but also then giving individual age groups or individual people to have the space for just spending time together at the library. Our community has our community center, We have nowhere that kids and families can necessarily gather right after school. Again, we really don't have a lot of social support networks here in this area. And so we really wanted to reinforce how can our library start to be that space for our community. So purely in the sense of assessing what your space is, what you have, how you want to zone it out by age groups, but then how can you shift the shelves and collections that you have in order to meet that? And part of that was creating spaces specifically for junior fiction. So we're moving into kind of upper elementary and tweens, as you might say. And initially, when I came here in 2011 and 12, this collection was in with like picture books. It was sort of blended into that space. And even when I came back in 2018, it was starting to sort of shift a little bit away from that, but it was never by itself. So you would often hear upper elementary kids like, I can't go in the baby room. I don't want to go in the baby room to get my books. And it to me, just listening, watching and listening how people were moving through the collections. And my coworker, who works really well with kids as well as teens, she really kind of listened and emphasized that we need to hear what they're saying and see if there's a way we can respect their space, give them their own place to interact with one another, but also their own space for their books. So they aren't having to go in the baby room in order to get their books. And so now we have a collection area just for J fiction. Unfortunately, we don't have the space to say, you know, here's a hangout space for you yet. Someday it's coming. But we did have a space and we had a kind of corner where we were giving teens, young adults, a space to spend time. And this was a really important aspect, not only to my coworker who was starting to work more with teens, but something we were hearing from the community that teens, especially, we need to encourage them to get back to reading or continue to sustain their reading, but also just giving them a space to be themselves, a respectful space that they can hang out with each other and spend time. So we do programming. This is the space we created for the young adults. And to me, not just creating these spaces, but creating programs in the library gets people in the building and makes the library feel like a comfortable space and encourages them to pick up a book. Our foot traffic has continued to increase, especially in the last year. Just last we had a 47% increase in our foot traffic from last year, and we've seen upwards of 60% increase. So we are seeing a response to the things we've been doing for about 5 years now. And I think it really does reflect on those small changes that we've made in order to encourage our community to come and spend time with us, but then giving that signal of this is a safe space and a safe zone for you to come and be yourself and then spend time with others as well. We also kind of redid the children's space. I would say younger children are still our largest served population. And we're kind of figuring out how to navigate our areas that we have for doing larger programming in order to kind of increase the impact on other age ranges. But really creating this space not only for children to spend time. So we have a puppet theater, we have a train table that's kind of hidden behind the puppet theater there in the middle. But we also started to try to face out the books. So we did find some local funding and even through grant funding in order to do drawers, pull out drawers to face out the books, and giving kids the chance to see themselves in books and then find books that they really wanted to interact with. We, prior to this, especially when like the J fiction was in this space, everything was just really crammed together. It was really hard to navigate, and it was hard for people to find books in order to just check them out. So giving us the chance to spread books out, move the collections around a little bit, and then facing them out has made a difference with circulation in relation to especially the children's area and children's books. Another thing we really started even before I became the branch manager was really looking at our collections and how are we reflecting our community. So purely in the sense of taking the percentages of culture in our community, data-based, and looking at census records for what ethnic backgrounds do we have? What representation should we have in our community? And how should our collections then, by percentage, also reflect that? I did have the chance to have an intern through a graduate school come in, and she did a diversity audit on part of the children's books. And I was kind of pleased to see that we had really started making a pretty good shift away from what I would say traditionally our collection was strongly, especially in the picture books, princesses and fairy tales and kind of that diversity percentages that you sometimes see where it was very strong in like animals, but very, very little was represented in our population for Black and African American characters, or just changing the character representation on the front of the books, who is illustrated and who is represented. And so I say no additional cost because I have a book budget, but I now use my book budget by making sure that I'm choosing books that also represent our community. So when our community walks in, they can see themselves in the books. And it's been a little easier to do that in children's books and a little more difficult to do that in adult books, but we're trying to make a stronger effort to do both, especially in YA as well, so that we know that when people come in, they can feel more comfortable by seeing themselves in the collection that we have. And then really emphasizing too that we don't just have books. Our main branch was able to start circulating STEAM kits. So we have yoga, we have electricity and different things. We were able to replicate some of those. And we do have a train table, as I mentioned. We also have a Lego table. We were able to kind of separate those so that the babies aren't eating the Legos. And we also started a puzzle exchange. This is not something that is checked in. I do not count puzzle pieces. And it's purely a space that people can bring. It's like a take one, leave one, and people can come in and take a puzzle, take it home, make it, bring it back if they want to, or we just get donations of other puzzles. And this is taken off, I would say, more in the last year, but we've had it for about 3 years now, and is really a nice addition to the community sharing with one another and kind of seeing what people are bringing in. And but again, it's for us very passive. So I maybe am losing a little bit of stats on this, that I don't know how many puzzles are necessarily coming in and out, but it's to me a way that the community is working with one another in order to have something, but getting them in the door, encouraging them to be at the library, and then having that space to know that they can come and spend time here and share with other people who like things together, like puzzles. And we also have a seed library. One of the other branches in our system started a seed library, and we were able to replicate that. It's been a little more, to be completely honest, it's been a little harder to manage than I expected it to be. We haven't necessarily been able to get that base of people to bring seeds back to us. So each year trying to get the seed donations and finding seeds to fill the packets is a little difficult. So sometimes our seed library is a little empty, but it's growing. And I think that's where the knowledge of it and the community input for it will change over time, but that's taken a little longer to gain that foot traffic than I expected. And during COVID, one of the ways that we really worked to stay in touch with our community was that we made pretty simple take and makes, and we call them our craft packets. And once and other things kind of started to let up, our community let us know that they wanted to keep seeing this. And for us, this is a way I'm sure we're not the only library that has mountains of things that were very kindly given to us over the decades that have never been removed from our spaces, that we really don't have room for storage, but they're still there. So we really delved into those and made use of these free supplies in order to make crafts and then send those out into the community so that they could do something at home. But that response has been great, that we can include activities that we're doing or calendars. That was what we were doing during COVID, was giving out calendars for things that were coming up or announcements and sharing about events. And so they knew what we were up to, but then they could have this activity that they could be a part of the library at home. And we've continued doing that and having that opportunity for families to still engage with us, but having an activity to do at home. And we also really just started to work hard on how to create programming that's not really going to kill us. I will say, like, I'm all about above and beyond, but I'm also a full-time mom. I have two young boys, and so full-time library, full-time mom. I do some other things on the side too. So it is hard to navigate that, but it also really does take a community and a good staff. I don't think I mentioned we have a staff of 2 full-time people and 3 part-time. And now, especially with our increased foot traffic, a lot of our programming is trying to find community members to come help us do that programming, but also is largely done offsite by our full-time staff, or some of our part-time staff have stepped in to help us do, especially like our craft and painting programs. I was happy to hire someone last fall who just happened to be an artist, and I didn't know that in the interview. So it's one of those happy surprises that we have people on our staff who can do great things with the community. But also, you know, we're not spending lots and lots of money on programming. We're doing things with recycled materials a lot of times, kind of things on the cheap, but finding creative ways to get the community in to spend time with us. A little bit of cost or planning for the future. When we were kind of rearranging and moving things in the library, I am personally not a small person. And we had these blue chairs you see on the left, and they absolutely drove me crazy. They were wide, but the arms were very kind of narrowed. It narrowed the seat space. And then it had these locked on like laptop boards that if you as a larger person sat into it, it was terribly uncomfortable. And then we had these other set of chairs, you kind of see it in the picture on the left, that were brown, even smaller, even more narrow. And so we had, we have a diverse population, but it was interesting to start thinking about how everyone navigates your library. How does everyone sit in your furniture? How accessible is your furniture and your space for moving through the library with a mobility device? Are your aisles wide enough? How can you assess your building to make sure that anyone coming in can see that they truly are welcome and able to spend time here, but also able to navigate through the spaces that you do have? So I wanted to move toward having furnishings that were more accessible. So we have some that have those, still have those laptop boards, but they're wider pieces of furniture. They have a sturdier seat, so older adults don't have a hard time getting up out of them. And that took a little bit of time to really assess what that could look like. But they also are easy to clean, and that was, to me, was good to be able to wipe down if you have to. And so certainly thinking about your furnishings, even if you're not able to do it now, how in the future would you want to change your furnishings and change your space that is navigable by people coming in your building? And we also had a hallway space where it had all these chairs just lined up. And so if anyone was ever sitting in these chairs, their legs were out in the middle of the aisleway. People couldn't walk through. It was really not a great space to actually spend time. And so we also don't have a space in the library for like study rooms. We don't have small areas for people to check out time to spend to work. And so this space also gave us the chance to close each end of the door, both ends of the breezeway. It's kind of like a breezeway between two building spaces. And this is our quiet zone. So we don't necessarily shush. We're kind of a no shush library. We want kids to spend time and have fun. I tell kids that screeching and screaming is for outdoors, but inside we can have conversations. I myself am not necessarily a quiet person, but if you do need a quiet space, this space we created in the breezeway with kind of higher tables and then bar stools, chairs, really gave us the chance to have that workspace for people who needed a quieter zone. We also continue to have people using outside pickups. So certainly during COVID, we did a lot of outdoor pickups. We were using then old like newspaper boxes with the little plastic fronts that you could pull down that might bite your hand when they smack back up at the top. So a couple times we had some issues with kids getting their fingers caught in them. So I was like, how can we move toward having something that might be more useful in order to continue having pickups, but maybe in a locker space. And so I was able to find these lockers. And I don't know about you all if you've had the opportunity to look at the kind of automatic outdoor pickup lockers that are available through like library furnishing companies. They are multi-$1,000s that we just don't have the funding to do. And when I found these they have the digital keypads, has a clear front, and we had a number of them, and we use the digital keypad for their PIN number for just like they have on their library card. And so we can do 24-hour pickup in these little lockers, and it's worked out really well, and has had a really good response for caregivers who can't come to the library when we're open, but then also places for us to put like our craft packets or free magazines, and that's been really a good response. We also, during COVID, worked with our local food pantry to start a program for having snack sacks. We knew that our community, we have about 20 to 22% poverty. We have 67% of our kids in our local school are on free and reduced lunch and economically challenged. And so we had a input from the community that people needed help with food. Our local food pantry doesn't necessarily have a lot of hours, and so and running on volunteer staff, so it's understandable. But we wanted to create a program where we could create snacks specifically for children. So we say it's a snack for some and a meal for others. We focus on proteins and focus on fruits in them, not fresh. They're all non-perishable, individually packaged. But this is a program that we have continued through today and has been very successful. The kids like coming to have a snack at the library. So yes, we do allow food in the library. To me, it's a concession that, again, it's giving them a safe space to know they have a meal if they need it, but also enjoying something at the library and making the library an enjoyable space. And getting outside of our walls. COVID certainly taught us that we needed to do that. And again, that's something that we have just continued to do. We participate in most of our festivals and things in the area. We do a lot of things with our local elementary school that has festivals, and they have kind of they call it, school improvement nights or Title I nights at the schools. And we do our best to be there when we can to make those relationships outside of our walls, because there are a lot of people in our community who necessarily can't come to us because of transportation. So some of our community members we only see at these outreach events. And to me, that's really beneficial that we're not only seeing them and showing them what services we could provide them, but also I'll talk a little bit about it here shortly, is that we're taking books out into the community to make sure that families and kids can have home libraries. So we're not expecting them to have to come to us, check something out, and then expecting them to have to come back to return those materials. We want literacy to be in our community and to encourage that by having books to take home and keep. But I mentioned working with the local schools, and from that fellowship with the Partnership for Rural Impact, we really started to try to develop a really strong relationship with the school. And now, we go to their after school meetings with the teachers, and we are really a part of the festivals. We spend probably at least 2 or 3 days a month over at the school, engaging with the classrooms or sharing about programs that we have coming up, like summer reading, or we are making sure the kids know that the library is a fun place to be. We've been at festivals and overheard caregivers saying, look, the librarians are nice. Look, the library is a fun place to be. The library is fun. And that makes a big difference, that you're not expecting people to come to you to know that you're going out and sharing with the community that this is how our library is. This is, we have changed. We have new staff. We have a good relationship that we want to form with you and with people in the area. And getting our community involved has been a really great response too. I commend my coworker. She started a program last year. She started as kind of like those trunk trick or treat, where you do it like a trunk festival. But she wanted to have people come and set up and share about the cultures that they came from, or like cultures they might be researching. So like homeschoolers who are doing research on different countries. And so we did this as a part of Dia de los Niños, Dia de los Libros, or Day of the Child, Day of the Book. In April, a festival, multicultural festival to celebrate reading around the world, but then learn about different cultures from around the world. And this year it really bloomed into something even more beautiful, with people coming, dancing, and having demonstrations of different foods and other things, and experiencing their own cultures and sharing that. And the joy of our community's response to seeing that has been really, really beautiful. And I mentioned book giveaways. We shifted some of our programming funds and have done grant writing specifically just for books to give away to the community. And that has formed as just a cart that we take and go out into the community during festivals and pass out books, or let kids choice. That's really kind of one of the things we emphasize, is letting the kids pick a book to take home and keep, something they're attracted to. But during Christmas parade, you can see me in my beautiful reindeer outfit. In the upper right, we walk with a local partnership that we hand out books during the parade, mostly to younger elementary kids. But that's a really fun experience too. And then in the middle, one of my colleagues from the fellowship with the Partnership for Rural Impact, they took a four-wheeler out into their parade and did the same thing, where they were passing out things during the parade. And again, it's kind of that emphasis of look at the cool, fun library, look what they're doing, and then look, I get to take home a book and keep that too. We also really have worked to try to find ways to bring local programming. Eco Explore, at least here in North Carolina, but I'm pretty sure it's a national program. They're connected to centers, and once we became an Eco Explore spot, so kids can come and they can scan things in our pollinator garden, and that uploads to help naturalists identify insects and plants that are growing in different areas. But our science center that hosts that then will come and do programming for us. So it's a really good opportunity to have a little more science programming and give the kids the chance to know about resources like the Science Center that's not too far away, but getting to meet staff from there and knowing what they have there as well for resources. And we've also involved our cooperative extension and 4-H to come and do programming, not only after school or for homeschoolers earlier in the day, but my coworker has started to involve a nutritionist once a month coming to do special programs to talk about healthy eating and nutrition for kids during story time. So again, thinking about who's in your community already that might be doing programming, and how can you connect to work with them. We recently connected with our it's more of a statewide food pantry system, so that it can help with our snack sack program, but they also have nutrition programs that we're going to work toward having come and be a part of our programming offerings. And I mentioned that, you know, this has really been building. We're making small changes, trying new things. And again, you know, like most libraries, we try a program for a little while. Maybe it might not work. Maybe we adjust it and try it differently. So we've been doing things really actively for about 5 years. And it really did start taking an impact of people noticing last year, especially. We were given an award for the best large business in the community by our local chamber of commerce. But that really does enforce that people are watching. People are watching us, and they know that we are trying our best to give the community opportunities to do things, to have an active place to spend time, and then have resources that we can help them with as well. Now, changing your building that's maybe not too expensive. I mentioned those arches. That was one of the first things when I came. I was like, this has to go. And so we were able to find funding in our municipal budgets. We are a municipal library as a part of a county system, but we were able to find the money in that budget that year to remove those arches. So we created an open space, redid the doors so they are not heavy. They now have a push button, and I see somebody say that made a big difference. Huge difference. Push button access, automatic doors has really made a big difference for people coming into our building. And it really was a visual sign of, I can come in the building. We have a ramp that I'm slowly working toward also having railing on. And so we're not fully accessible as I wish I could say we were. But we're getting there. And I think also, you know, making those small steps toward being more accessible and being able to say, yes, anyone can come in our building really does make a big difference. And again, municipal funding, we have some allocations for construction. We did take some walls down. Building was built in 1966. If you are familiar with older buildings that are pre-ADA, the bathroom door wasn't even barely like 32 inches. So if you were a larger person like myself, it was even hard to navigate getting into the bathroom. So certainly not ADA. And so we were able to reconstruct part of the bathroom kitchen space in order to have now 2 ADA accessible bathrooms and a smaller kitchen for us. But again, it's an accessible space that anyone can come and have access to, but also spend time and be able to use the restroom if they're here for longer periods of time. And that's leading toward an exciting part that I can share now, that we're going to work toward an expansion. As I mentioned, we are now significantly short for our square footage we should have for our service population. Our building now should be about 10,000 square feet. So we were able to have a little seed money from a local family that donated to the library to work with a firm. And we're going to hopefully, I'm just putting it out into the universe, that we are going to build this building, and it is 20,000 square feet, 2 stories. And this is kind of the visual that they gave us just about a month and a half ago. And a couple aspects of this is that this is a community center and a library. So again, reinforcing that idea of having a community space that also has resources like library services in it, but it's going to have a kitchen for teaching classes, for cooking, for our extension that is 25 miles away to come and teach the same classes up here. I look forward to working to design a place in the library that also has a specific space for adults and children with disabilities. So not a space that's a locked like therapy room. We'll have that as well. And that tends to be what a lot of libraries have for accessibility for people, either neurodiversity or any other disabilities. but we're going to have an open space. We have a number of families here in this area with children and adults and various disabilities, and giving them the chance to feel comfortable in the library. And so we did get a grant through Libraries Transforming Communities in order to explore what does that look like. What is that larger space, an open space for people of all abilities to come and spend time at the library. So I look forward to really continuing this design and then working toward fundraising for making sure we can build this and give that resource to our community. So, small changes. They can be anywhere from changes using resources you might already have, craft supplies that could be donated, getting outside of your walls, kind of altering what you're already doing to just adjust to make sure that you're signaling to community that you want to better serve them, know how you can do that, and listen to them and get responses from them. And it does take time. I think we started to really see that foot traffic change last year, and not only from people moving in from Toyota, but more of our community that we knew have been here for generations. More of that impact from working with the local school in really making those connections and relationships has really created the bond and cemented us as a firm part of our community. And it's a great response. And it really, really is beautiful to watch that happen. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here. I think we have a few minutes for questions if anybody has any questions. And we can try to read the questions so we have that on the recording. And just again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
All right. Thank you so much, Brenda. And thanks for everyone for being here today. And just want to put in a plug as a reminder, if you are watching an archive recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video description on YouTube. And if you're here today in person, I will be getting those LEUs sent out and hopefully get those out soon within the next week or so. But yeah, so many great ideas. Anybody have questions? Or if you want to put in the chat, if you have something that you've done at your library, it's a great time to share that if you want to.
Yeah, and that's always the great thing about presentations and collaboration is, what's something simple that you maybe have been surprised by. I'm hoping to, at our state library in the fall, to do a workshop, kind of that same idea, present this and then workshop what ideas are out there, because it never ceases to amaze me to learn about what different libraries have done in relation to maybe just their location, that they really are more rural. And so how are they getting those resources out and really making a big impact in their area?
Yeah. Oh, someone has how much was the grant transforming libraries?
So the Libraries Transforming Communities through the American Library Association, which I'm happy to share, is a privately funded grant. So it was not IMLS impacted. We just out last month, but that grant for they have anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 grants. So we did get the $10,000 grant, and that's giving us a chance. We have a local adult care facility, and some of the adults there have been asking us to do a book club. So we're going to do a book club with the adult care facility and then work with them to better know how we can serve adults with disabilities. And then we're going to do a bit of traveling. We're going to go to care facilities, day facilities for people of different ages with disabilities, but also museums that have sensory spaces that are more open, and learning more about even how libraries have responded to even communities that might have people with autism and on the autism spectrum. So it'll be really interesting to give us the chance to learn again from other libraries, but across different services and service populations, to know how we can better serve the community and how our building that we want to build can better serve the community down the road.
We also had another question. Do you have a special way to get donations from your community?
I will say that getting donations from our community, like making an ask or making a call out for donations, has been difficult. My biggest success is I like to go out. We have a local coffee shop, a couple places locally that will let me come and host like a craft program or a painting program. So I do have the capability of like teaching people how to paint on big canvases. So we got some canvases donated, and it is a charged program, but we have a one of those like paint and sip places that will charge $30 to $40 per person. So I might charge 20 or 25. All that funding goes toward our programming, but I might make $500 each time I do it. That to me has been a little more successful. And But we've also had some success. We have a local family who runs a local business. They're doing a quarter auction for us. So we have had some people come to us and say, can we do this fundraiser for you? With the new building, what my plan is to go out into like our Ruritan meetings, our Rotary clubs, veterans groups, and share with them what we want to do, why we need to do it, why it would better serve our community, and ask them for help. I'm not necessarily saying I need your money, but I'm asking them for connections to resources they may have, and how to better connect with those things. And so that has been a little more difficult for me because we've been doing so much intense work here in the building that I haven't necessarily been able to go out and make solid communications and local partnerships. So that's something we're still working on.
Awesome. Sorry, my throat's a little bit scratchy. I put some other ideas in the chat, and again, if you guys have some ideas, put that in. But it looks like we've got about 3 more minutes. So anybody else have questions at this time? Yeah, someone put in maybe Toyota will donate.
Maybe. And I know when we heard that Toyota was coming, I actually did call some libraries near Toyota's, and they do have a donation grant arm. But I'm also not expecting, I'm expecting more of our tax base to change and be able to have that funding for a larger portion of that fundraising. I'm not expecting our local industries to necessarily say, I'll give you the whole fund. But yeah, I think breaking down chunks of a building into like the tech spaces or the kitchen spaces, that healthcare places, like we have Duke University, we have large hospital systems here that might be able to help us design those sensory spaces and other things, and kind of chunking out the fundraising to be able to do it in that way.
Yeah, great. Well, at this point, I'm going to say again, thank you so much to Brenda and everyone for being here.